Good evening, all. As you know, it's rare that I get a chance to review a first screening or a modern movie, I should say, because I don't get a chance to see many of them due to financial and time constraints. But I did get to see one of this year's Academy Award nominee films, only one, and that was Hamnet, which was playing at our local theater here in Toronto called the Fox. And my hosts rather graciously allowed me to, got me a ticket to go see it. I really quite enjoyed it and wanted to do just a brief review. I won't do too many spoilers because I know there are some people who haven't seen it, although this is based mainly on a historical fact, so it's not like I'm really giving anything away by discussing the plot. Anyway, it starred Jessie Buckley, who won the Best Actress award, Academy Award this year for playing Anne/Agnes Hathaway. There is some historical uh, record of her being referred to as Agnes by her father, but it is generally thought that most people refer to her as Anne, that her name was Anne, not Agnes. Um, but she's called Agnes in this film. And Paul Mescal played William Shakespeare, and then the three children are played by Emily Watson and uh, uh, Joe Alwyn. Noah Jupe played the Hamnet, who was Shakespeare's actual son. He had three children by Anne Hathaway, and they're all portrayed in the movie. Susannah was the eldest, and that's Emily Watson. And then Juliet and Hamnet were twins, and they're also in the movie. Um, some of this, again, like I said, some of it is fictionalized, and Emily Watson, I'm sorry, is Mary Shakespeare, William Shakespeare's mother. Joe Alwyn plays Bartholomew Hathaway, who's Anne's younger brother. Um, Jacob Jacoby Jupe plays Hamnet. Olivia Lyons is Judith, and I'm looking for who. Bodhi Ray. Uh, Forgive me if I get this name wrong. I don't know how Scottish pronounces it, but it's Brethnach, I think, plays Susannah, his oldest daughter by Anne Hathaway. Um, there's something like I said, some of this is fictionalized and some of this is not fictionalized. Some of it is true. It talks about Shakespeare's plays. It talks about his relationship with, uh, again, this person Agnes, who in the movie, this is fictionalized. She's portrayed as sort of like a witch, like a woods woman who has magic and owns a hawk. And there's a funny scene in the movie where the hawk, she says to be careful. He wants to pet it. She says, be careful, and he's petting the hawk and saying, "Oh, who's a nice bird," and it bites him. She says, "He likes you." That's funny. The fact that it bit him meant that it liked her, and that's kind of funny. Um, and it talks about when he was just starting to write his plays and starting to do comedies and things, he would have to travel down to London, and they lived in I don't remember in Norfolk somewhere, or Suffolk, I should say, but he had to go to London to write his plays because that's where the center of the theater was at that time in the late 16th, early 17th century, and he spent a lot of time away from that. That is not actually true. It is indicated that although he did, in fact, spend a good deal of time in London during that period, it's also indicated that Anne came with him and that his family also came with him. So that's, again, fictionalized for the sake of the increasing dramatic tension, for the movie. So that was a kind of a thing between them. She wanted him to come to stay with the children more often and not spend so much time in London, where he went to write his plays and to produce them at famously at the Globe Theatre. Um, Later became known as Shakespeare's Globe, but that did not take place during his lifetime. Um, it shows the varying degrees of success. The I should mention that a lot of this is shot outdoors, and it's just the cinematography is gorgeous. I'll get you the name of the cinematographer in a minute because directed by Chloe Zhao, who lives here in Toronto, by the way. Um, Cinematography is by a guy named Chloe Zhao, and I don't know what nationality he is, but really, really excellent job. Set dressing was also really excellent, and I do not have a listing of who the set dresser was, but the sets are just incredible. The portrayal of England during that period looks exactly like it looks in all the books that I've read about Shakespeare, and also, I have visited Shakespeare's actual home in Stratford-upon-Avon in England in 1989, and yes, it looks almost exactly the same. The town, the implements, the kind of lifestyle that they had, which was very rural and very poor. At that time, everybody kind of grew their own vegetables, and yeah, there were markets and things, but they were pretty paltry, and that's portrayed fairly well in the movie, which I think gave it a lot of really nice. It gave it a nice verisimilitude. It pulls you into that world very nicely, and you don't feel like it's a fake or it's a Hollywood thing. You feel like you're actually in England at that period. And of course, one of the unfortunate things during that time is that the bubonic plague appeared several times in England, and one of these times is when Hamnet and Juliet were both 11. Juliet was first infected by it and began to sicken, and then in the movie, I don't know if this part I think is again fictionalized. Hamnet, who is now becoming, a young man, and he wants to be an actor, and he's quite brave and adventurous, but he also loves his sister a great deal, and he holds her while she's, allegedly dying, and breathes with her, and I guess for dramatic sense, I don't think this actually happened in real life. For dramatic sense, because he breathed with her, he got the plague, and she is cured, but he dies. That actually happened. He was born in 1588. He died in 1596 at age 11. That is true, and in the movie, has a terrible effect on the marriage between Anne and Agnes, I should say, and William. Puts a lot of stress on them, and he's in absolute grief and doesn't really seem to recover much until, of course, he goes back to London and writes his play Hamlet. It should be noted that apparently in Middle English, which was the language that they spoke at the time, Hamnet and Hamlet were pronounced the same. I don't know if they were both pronounced Hamnet or both pronounced Hamlet, but they were apparently both pronounced the same. But he wrote the play, Hamlet, and made the Prince of Denmark a tribute to his son. He was brave and he died, nobly, and he wanted to portray him that way. And they show you the performance of it by some other actors who are all, very good. And they don't show you the whole play, obviously, they couldn't, but just the effect that it had on, at first Agnes was upset that, how are you doing this? You're portraying my son's life, but she liked the ending and, what happens with Hamlet, and of course his famous, to be or not to be speech, and some of the other great speeches in the play that are delivered by Hamlet. There's an actor who was quite good. I'll get you that name. The actor who plays Hamlet in the Globe Theater production. There's some dispute as to when exactly it was first aired. It was sometime between 1598 and 1602. So it was several years after his son's death was the first recitation of Hamlet, but first staging of Hamlet. But they don't know. The historians are not certain exactly when Hamlet was first performed, simply because the records. Again, Noah Jupe also played Hamlet in Hamlet, the guy who played Hamnet. And there's kind of a touching scene in there. I'm not going to give that away, but there's sort of a resolution at the end of that. Ralph Gould plays Horatio. Sean Mason played Claudius, and this devious uncle. Matthew Tennyson played Gertrude. Again, men often played women in these plays. L. Simons plays Ophelia. Clay Milner Russell played Laertes, and Sam Wolf played Bernardo, and Hera Gibson played Francisco. Jack Shalhoub played Marcellus. Uh, Javier Marzan played the Fool, and that was basically all the people who were in that production of Hamlet. You get to see briefly, again, you don't get to see the entire play because that would have taken up the entire movie. Excellent, excellent performance by Jessie Buckley, and I can see that she absolutely positively deserved the Best Actress nomination. Now, I have not seen any of the other movies that were nominated this year, so maybe it's unfair for me to say that without comparisons, but she definitely deserved, based on the performance of hers, the Best Actress, in my opinion. Again, I recommend that you see it. It's really quite excellent. Whether you're, interested in Shakespeare or not, it's still, even if you look at it as a completely fictional story, it's really quite excellent.